welcome back to my channel. This is going to be my second video of the ASMR series. Today, I'm going to be reading Ready Player One for your, bedtime story. When this movie came out, I loved watching this movie. It was one of the movies where I would always go back to the movie theater, and on the releasing week, I watched it about 4 times because I love the movie so much. I've yet to watch the movie though, I've yet to read the book, but soon. I guess I'll just read it with you guys, so why not? Let's start off with the book. It's also raining outside right now, so I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to make an ASMR video. I don't know about you guys, but I love the sound of rain. So, Chapter 0, Page 1. Everyone my age remembers where they were and what they were doing when they first heard about the contest. I was sitting in my hideout watching cartoons when the news bulletin broke in on my video feed, announcing that James Halliday had died during that night. I've heard of Halliday, of course. Everyone had. He was the video game designer responsible for creating the Oasis, a massively multiplayer online game that had gradually evolved into the globally networked virtual reality most of humanity now used on a daily basis. The unprecedented success of the Oasis had made Halliday one of the wealthiest people in the world. At first, I couldn't understand why the media was making such a big deal of the billionaire's death. After all, the people of planet Earth had other concerns: the ongoing energy crisis, catastrophic climate change, widespread famine, poverty, and disease. Half a dozen wars, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. Normally, the newspaper feeds didn't interrupt everyone's interactive sitcoms and soap operas, unless something really major had happened. Like the outbreak of some new killer virus, or another major city vanishing in a mushroom cloud. Big stuff like that. As famous as he was, Halliday's death should have warranted only a brief segment on the evening news, so the unwashed masses could shake their heads in envy when the newscasters announced the obscenely large amount of money that would be doled out to the rich man's heirs. But that was the rub. James Halliday had no heirs. He had died a 67-year-old bachelor with no living relatives, and by most accounts, without a single friend. He'd spent the last 15 years of his life in self-imposed isolation, during which time, if the rumors were to be believed, he'd gone completely insane. So the real jaw-dropping news that January morning, the news had everyone from Toronto to Tokyo crapping in their cornflakes, concerned the contents of Halliday's last will and testament, and the fate of his vast fortune. Halliday had prepared a short video message along with the instructions that it be released to the world media at the time of his death. He'd also arranged to have a copy of the video emailed to every single Oasis user that same morning. I still remember hearing the familiar electronic chime when it arrived in my inbox, just a few seconds after I saw that first news bulletin. His video message was actually a meticulously constructed short film titled Anorak's Invitation. A famous eccentric, Halliday had harbored a lifelong obsession with the 1980s, the decade during which he'd been a teenager, and Anorak's Invitation was crammed with obscure 80s pop culture references, and nearly all of which were lost on me the first time I viewed it. The entire video was just over 5 minutes in length, and in the days and weeks that followed, it would become the most scrutinized piece of film in history, surpassing even the Zapruder film, the amount of painstaking time, frame by frame analysis devoted to it. My entire generation would come to know every second of Halliday's message by heart. Anorak's Invitation begins with the sound of trumpets, the opening of an old song called Dead Man's Party. The song plays over a dark screen for the first few seconds until the trumpets are joined by guitar, and that's when Halliday appears. But he's not a 60-year-old man, ravaged by time and illness. He looks just as he did on the cover of Time magazine back in 2014. A tall, thin, healthy man in his early 40s, with unkempt hair and his trademark horn-rimmed eyeglasses. He's also wearing the same clothing he wore in the Time cover photo, faded jeans and a vintage Space Invaders shirt. Halliday is at a high school dance being held in a large gymnasium. He's surrounded by teenagers whose clothing, hairstyles, and dance moves all indicate that the time period is in the late 1980s. Halliday's dancing too, something no one ever saw him do in real life. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a very good dancer. I would be one of those guys who would, you dance and then you see cringe. But slowly but surely, I am going to learn dancing and keep practicing, and also French, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Grinning maniacally, he spins in rapid circles, swinging his arms head in time with the song, flawlessly cycling through several signature 80s dance moves. But Halliday has no dance partner. He is, as the saying goes, dancing with himself. A few lines of text appear briefly at the lower left-hand corner of the screen, listening the name of the band, the song title, the record label, and the year of release. As if this were an old music video airing on MTV. Oingo Boingo, Dead Man's Party, MCA Records, 1985. I wasn't even born yet. I was born in 1999. Last of my generation. When the lyrics kick in, Halliday begins to lip sync along, still gyrating, all dressed up with nowhere to go, walking with the dead man over my shoulder. Don't run away, it's only me. He abruptly stops dancing and makes a cutting motion with his right hand, silencing the music. At the same moment, the dancers in the gymnasium behind him vanish. The scene around him suddenly changes. Halliday now stands at the front of a funeral parlor, next to an open casket. A second, much older Halliday lies in the casket. His body emaciated and ravaged by cancer. Shiny cords cover each of his eyelids. The younger Halliday gazes down at the corpse of his older self with mock sadness, and then turns to address the assembled mourners. Halliday snaps his fingers, and a scroll appears in his right hand. He opens it with a flourish, and it unflurs to the floor, unraveling down the aisle in front of him. He breaks the fourth wall, addressing the viewer, and begins to read. I, James Donovan Halliday, being a sound mind and disposing memory, do hereby make, publish and declare this instrument to be my last will and testament, hereby revoking any and all wills and codicils by me at any time, here though for my. Sorry, I have to. One sec. I apologize. I have to blow my nose. Where do we lay off? At any time, here though for made. He continues reading faster and faster, plowing through several more paragraphs of legalese, until he's speaking so rapidly that the words are unintelligible. Then he stops abruptly. Forget it, he says. Even at that speed, it would take me a month to read the whole thing. Sad to say, I don't have that kind of time. He drops the scroll, vanishes in a shower of gold dust. Let me just give you the highlights. The funeral parlor vanishes, and the scene changes once again. Halliday now stands in front of an immense bank vault door. My entire estate, including a control share of stock in my company, Gregarious Simulation Systems, is to be placed in escrow until such time as a single condition I have set forth in my will is met. The first individual to meet that condition will inherit my entire fortune, currently valued in excess of $240 billion. The vault door swings open and Halliday walks inside. The interior of the vault is enormous, and it contains a huge stack of gold bars, roughly the size of a large house. Here's the dough I'm putting up for grabs, Halliday says, grinning broadly. What the hell? You can't take it with you, right? Halliday leans against the stack of gold bars, and the camera pulls in tight on his face. Now I'm sure you're wondering, what do you have to do to get your hands on all this moolah? Well, hold your horses, Screeds. I'm getting to that. My accent is so bad, I swear. It's I've never really spoken in a soft voice like this unless I was like trying to be quiet at 2 a.m. in the morning so my parents wouldn't catch me, and I was like, I don't know, 16 years old. They'd yell at me if they found out I was awake. You know, those moments, yeah. I'm getting to that. He pauses dramatically, his expression changing to that of a child about to reveal a very big secret. I keep speaking in that accent. Halliday snaps his fingers again, and the vault disappears. At the same instant, Halliday shrinks and morphs into a small boy wearing brown corduroys and a faded Muppet Show t-shirt. The young Halliday stands in a cluttered living room with burnt orange carpeting, wood-paneled walls, and kitschy late 70s decor. A 2-in-1-inch Zenith television sits nearby with an Atari 2600 game console hooked up to it. My first console that I ever played on was a PlayStation 1. No, actually, if you count handheld. If you count handheld, I would say Game Boy Color, then it was Game Boy Advanced, then PlayStation 1. This was the first video game system I ever owned. Halliday says, now in a child's voice. An Atari 2600. I got it for Christmas in 1979. He plops down in front of the Atari, picks up a joystick, and begins to play. My favorite game is this one, he says, nodding at the TV screen, where a small square is traveling through a series of simple mazes. It was called Adventure. Like many early video games, Adventure was designed and programmed by just one person. Back then, Atari refused to give its programmers credit for the work, so the name of the game's creator didn't actually appear anywhere on the packaging. On the TV screen, we see how they use a sword to slay a red dragon. Although due to the game's crude, low-resolution graphics, 640 by 480, this looks more like a square using an arrow to stab a deformed duck. So the guy who created Adventure, a man named Warren Robinette, decided to hide his name inside the game itself. He hid a key in one of those game's labyrinths. If you found this key, a small pixel-sized gray dot, you could use it to enter a secret room where Robinette had hidden his name. On the TV, Halliday guides his square protagonist into the secret room, where the words created by Warren Robinette appear in the center of the screen. This, Halliday says, pointing to the screen with genuine reverence, was the first video game Easter egg. Robinette hid it in his game's code without telling a soul, and Atari manufactured and shipped Adventure all over the world without knowing about the secret room. They didn't find about the Easter egg's existence until a few months later, when kids all over the world began to discover it. I was one of those kids, and finding Robinette's Easter egg for the first time was one of the coolest video game experiences of my life. Now imagine that. Imagine you're the very first kid to find the very first Easter egg in any game. Preferably, I don't know, the first game ever created. That'd be crazy. Who would have even thought of creating an Easter egg? Oh, let's put something secret in the game that no one else knows about, except for the creator. And if they find it, they get some, I don't know, crazy item like Metal Gear Solid. I used to watch my brother play it all the time, but there were these two items. I think it was a jacket that gave you invincibility. Then there was a bandana, I think, that gave you infinite ammo. You couldn't equip those two things simultaneously though, but those two items really, really helped if you knew about the Easter egg. Excuse me. Where the hell you go? Yikes. The young Halliday drops his joystick and stands. As he does, the living room fades away. The scene shifts again. Halliday now stands in a dim cavern where light from unseen torches flickers off the damp walls. In the same instant, Halliday's appearance also changes once again as he morphs into this famous Oasis avatar, Anorak, a tall, robed wizard with a slightly more handsome version of the adult Halliday's face, minus the eyeglasses. Anorak is dressed in his trademark black robes, with his avatar's emblem, a large calligraphic letter, A, embroidered on each sleeve. Before I died, Anorak says, speaking in a much deeper voice, I created my own Easter egg and hid it somewhere inside my most popular video game, the Oasis. The first person to find my Easter egg will inherit my entire fortune. Another dramatic pause. The egg is well hidden. I didn't just leave it lying under some rock. Somewhere. I suppose you can say that it's locked inside a safe that is buried in a secret room that lies hidden at the center of the maze, located somewhere. He reaches up to type his right temple. I'm using my right hand, so I can't tap on my right temple with my right hand. But don't worry, I've left a few clues lying around to get everyone started. Here's the first one. Anorak makes a grand gesture with his right hand, and 3 keys appear, spinning slowly in the air in front of him. They appear to be made of copper, jade, and clear crystal. As the keys continue to spin, Anorak recites a piece of verse, and as he speaks each line, it appears briefly in flaming subtitles across the bottom of the screen. When I saw these keys in the movie, I was like, oh man, what if I had those in the background that I could like hang up and I guess just keep as a cold decoration for my house? Because the keys looked amazing in the movie. So, alright, I think that's gonna be episode 1 of reading books with Skyro. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.